up, LinkedIn? Happy to be back with another Finance First series. Man, we're just excited. Again, for those of you that have been checking in for the entire month of April, because it's coming to an end, we've been talking about this financial literacy, financial education movement because April is Financial Literacy Month. Derek and I wanted to bring you all of the guests, all of the resources that are out there to help your children, help your youth start to really grasp and understand this thing called money, right? And so we're doing it. Again, we got a real special guest here for us today. I'm going to let Derek intro him, even though I've had some good interaction with him. My daughter quotes his book a bunch.
Nice.
Right? She loves it. She knows it. But Derek, who do we got with us today?
Today we have Mac Gardner, and we're super excited, Mac, to have you on with us today on the Finance First series. You've been a friend of both of us for a while now, and so we're just glad to be able to share your journey with our audience so that they can learn about the amazing things you have going on. And so let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So Mac, I want to dig a little bit deeper into, your past and who you are. And I want to make sure everyone knows who Mac Gardner is from the beginning
Man, how much time we got, y'all?
Man, give us the highlights. Give us the highlights. Where'd you start? How'd you get to where you're at now? Because the Four Money Bears, like we were talking about before, my kids have a copy of it. They love it. And so I want everyone to know, what's your backstory? How'd you get here?
So first and foremost, brothers, thank you so much for having me, man. When I heard what you all are putting together and cooking up, I was like, I'd like to be a guest chef in this financial services kitchen. So Mac Gardner, certified financial planner, been blessed, very fortunate to have been in this industry for 20 plus years. Started off my career in retail banking and then transitioned into trust administration. Then I did commercial corporate lending. Then I did corporate 401ks. And I got into wealth management and managed some good sized offices for some pretty recognizable firms out there. Did that for a while, did some advanced markets wholesaling. But the thing that really started this whole journey for me about education and educating was when I started my practice with Raymond James in Houston. And my first book is titled Motivate Your Money, and I wrote that for adults. Chris, you're an advisor, you work with client base. One of the best quotes or best, responses I've ever got from a client is, Mac, you know what? You make this financial planning stuff easy to understand. I have my Mac Nuggets. I try to break things down to make things easy for people to understand. And so that's how the first book, Motivation Money, came to be. My second book came about because one of my clients was on the board of Jack and Jill, a nonprofit organization. Some folks out there may know that, for mothers of color and their kids. And she's like, Mac, would love if you wrote something for kids. I was like, well, how young? She said, elementary school. I was like, ooh, that's pretty young. And so I did some research, and the whole idea behind the Full Money Bears came about because a child's connectivity with money actually starts as early as age 7. Derek, I know you've been working and educating young people for years and understanding that, it's great to be one of the 23 states that offer some sort of financial literacy requirement by high school, but that's typically senior year in high school. And if it starts by age 5, 6, 7, that's a 10-year gap of misinformation and no information that kids are getting. So that's how the Full Money Bears book started.
It's amazing. And it's interesting that you brought up working with the schools, because that's definitely been a challenge, because like you said, once we get to the senior year, there's so much that's been lost. And so that's something that I think is super important, starting with the kids at a younger age to make sure that they have that solid foundation. What has that experience been like for you? Have you been working with schools? Do you work with nonprofits? Kind of how does that work for you?
Yeah, when I first published the book 5 plus years ago now, we were living in Houston, Texas at the time. And I bought the book to my kids' school because I was like, all right, you know what? Kids need to hear the story. So I went to my kids' school principal. I said, hey, I wrote this book. And she was looking through the book. She said, Mac, do you know what you have here? I'm like, a book to help a parent that probably never got that education themselves to start the conversation with their kid about what to do with their money. She said, the state of Texas recently released these new TEKS, the curriculum for elementary school, and financial literacy is one of them. And so the state of Texas is one of those progressive states that's doing this. She said, there's nothing like what you have out there right now. And this was, I guess, 5-6 years ago. Yep. She was like, this is so important. So what I started doing was doing book readings at elementary schools throughout the city of Houston. And I would do this thing called a $100 bill challenge. And this is real super important. When you deal with elementary school kids, you need to be able to get their attention because they playing, they run around, they're doing all kinds of wild stuff. So I said, how can I grab their attention? So I keep a $100 bill in my wallet. I took the $100 bill out and I call it the $100 bill challenge. And I would ask these kids, if I gave you this $100 bill, what would you do with it? And what do you think 90% of the responses were?
I'm going to spend it on some food and some candy.
Video candy, books, Pokemon cards, just a litany of stuff. And I would do this over and over and over again. And you know what? It became an actual experiment that shows me that children are conditioned to consume from a very early age. And so I talk about the 3 R's of a person's relationship with money. A child gets a dollar bill in their hand and they realize it's money. I know what this is. It's money. The second R is they then recognize what it does. Okay, I can spend this or I can save it. And for most kids, the extent of their recognition of the functions of money literally ends there. That's it. So once you realize what it is, you recognize what it does, you can then rationalize how this tool works in your life. But if you only know what 2 things, how can you then rationalize it? And so that's why we thought it was so important to introduce kids to the 4 functions of money at a very early age, so that once you get that money, you realize you actually have 4 choices: spend it, save it, invest it, or give it away. And so that's that's literally that's the crux of the book, is to start this awareness of your 4 functions at an early age.
Mac, that's so important. And I'm going on record to say this. I'm so appreciative that you did write the book, just like that principal told you and said, like, hey, do you know what you have here? I, even being in the money space for going on 10 years now, never looked at it in that simple of a way that I could teach my 4-year-old at the time when we interacted. My daughter was 3 and she was 3, and she picked up that book when we were reading it to her, and she got it immediately. Like, it wasn't like it was, what is that? How does that work? Just by the way that you laid it out was so crucial. So kudos to you. Thank you for being able to do that. And for everyone that's listening, understand how early kids can pick this up. Something you said that was so key, Mac, that like and I think from children all the way up, we're conditioned to consume. We're conditioned to be consumers, like spenders. That's the way we operate, especially in America. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but specifically for America, that's how we operate. And so our kids are picking this up at such an early age that it's our job to now give them the other side. Yes, you can give this money away. If you have money, you can give it to good causes, to give it to people that are in need. You should be investing it. That means allowing it to grow. And then you can spend it and also save it, right? So just putting that message out there, Mac, super, super powerful. Thank you for, again, doing that, because they pick it up so quickly.
And I think that's been one of the big things that a lot of people take kids for granted, just bottom line. Oh, well, if I don't understand it, because they never got that experience, how could a child understand it? But, one of the cool things, the stories I like to tell is, we'll talk about what we're doing to digitize the platform and really scale it and get it out to more communities. But I'm a huge fan and a true believer that all we are at the end of our days, fellas, is a collection of stories. It's literally all we are. We go through life hearing and sharing stories. And there are way too many children, if they happen to come out of our households, right, Chris and Dee, right, that hear stories about investing and hear stories about what's an IRA or what's a stock or what's a bond, they have a fighting chance. A vast majority of kids won't ever get those stories. Right. So imagine now, after a child either reads the 4 Money Bears book or our new app, the 4 Money Bears Berryville that we're developing, they're playing this game and they're learning about entrepreneurship and they're learning about all this stuff. And all of a sudden, when they get that $100 bill, they turn to mom and dad and say, hey, you know, mom, dad, can I use 50 of this to buy some Nike sneakers or whatever? And can I use the other 50 to actually buy shares of Nike?
Exactly.
Can you imagine the paradigm shift when
powerful.
children start having these conversations as early as age 5, 6, 7, that awareness? It's super powerful.
Very, very powerful. Even with my own kids, I've noticed that just starting to have those conversations with them at an early age, and they're constantly asking questions. And now they're being very mindful of how they spend their money. So we'll go to the store, and let's say they saved up $30 and there's this toy they wanted for $30. As soon as we get to the store, they're like, okay, I worked hard to earn all of this money. Dad, can you give me like $20 and I'll just put 10 in? And the whole conversation changes, and they don't want to spend their money. So they flip it. This has happened a lot of times where they saved up for that toy, but then they realize, nah, I don't think I want it as much because I worked too hard for this money. I would rather save some and get something else. And that's the lesson. I want to change that mindset. So that's what I love about your book, because it opens up those doors for those conversations. And even for the parents that might not have a high financial IQ, read the book to your kids, and that's going to start
pick up some stuff yourself.
You're picking up some things yourself. Exactly. So I really love the work you're doing, man. Very, very
Thank you. It's funny. I was at an e-money conference a few years ago, and we were talking to advisors, because I'm a huge proponent of financial advisors being the vehicles for education in communities. I think, you know, we're in that space all the time. And so why not be in the community and doing things? And she used a very good phrase that she coached her children to use when they're in the store. She says, I don't tell my kids that I can't afford it. I tell them I choose not to spend my money that way.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow.
I like that. That is good.
that is huge. Like, guys, like, that's huge. Man, it's funny. I was just about to post something on Instagram talking about your language around money determines your success with money. And that's literally all that is. It's changing your language around something. It brings me the idea. Oftentimes I would tell people about that time. Normally we say things like, I don't have the time, but we all have the time. We all have the same amount of time, actually, because we all get the same 24 hours. So changing your language to say, that's not my priority right now, right? It puts the ownership back on you.
For sure.
Right. And
I don't have to do it. I get to do it.
There we go. Right. Language, the language around money, not think of how many parents do say, I can't afford that. We can't afford that. That's wasteful, whatever it is. Changing that language just a bit. Say, I choose not to spend money on that. Well, then where do you choose to spend money? Well, I choose to spend it on our necessities, or I choose to spend it here. It'll open up the door to so much. So that's a huge, huge gem. If anyone's listening, I hope you're picking this stuff up.
The Mac Nuggets.
Yeah.
The Mac Nuggets.
The Mac Nuggets.
Hey, so, did you trademark that?
Yeah, you need some Mac.
You know, people are like, hey, does McDonald's? I said,
Mac Nuggets.
McDonald's is MC Donald, so I'm MACNUGGET.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can literally trademark that, because that's good, Mac. That's good.
That's right.
So I kind of want to stick to the language of money for a second, because that was something that Robert Herjavec talks a lot about, that the poor people stay poor because they don't understand the language of money. So we just got, you know, that very important Mac nugget right there about the language of money. But what can parents do to increase their vocabulary? Because that's just one Mac nugget right there, right? That's just one piece of information. What should they do so that they can continue to grow their vocabulary around money and finances?
So when we put together Finlit Tech, we were looking at the current fintech market space, right? And what we found is that there's a bunch of technology out there to do stuff with your money: banking, investing, lending, insurance. I can literally go on my phone right now and get $500,000 more. But there's not a lot of stuff out there to teach you what to do with your money from a fintech perspective. And so we were looking at that, and then we saw that there's a formula to financial wellness. And this is sort of the long way to answer your question. There's a crap ton of financial literacy information out there.
Too much.
You can literally go on Google if you were so inclined and pull up a bunch of information on financial education, vernacular, terms, blah, 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 blah. But unless you give folks the financial capability or the tools to enact this stuff, it's a moot point. Yep. Here's a bunch of education, but we're not going to teach you how to use it. We're not going to give you the tools how to use it. Here's instructions to go build a house, but we're not going to give you the tools to build it. And so that, in my personal opinion, I think technology is the tool, the capability. And when you have financial literacy plus financial technology, Finlit Tech, our company, that's how you can get the financial wellness.
I love that.
That's how you get people to be more engaged and understand by giving them the tools literally in their hand. Okay, what's going on here? This is pretty interesting. Okay. Oh. Videos, Chris, that you're putting together. Derrick, these things that we are creating, that you're creating now, are the tools, the technology that brings these terms and these concepts to awareness. And so I think that's what we need. We need to leverage fintech and technology more to get to scale the resources to more people.
Absolutely, Mac. Talk more about the fintech side of things, because we haven't talked about it a lot on the show, and it's an important part. I often tell people that, technology is this big tidal wave. You're not going to escape it.
No.
Right? You're not going to want to run away from it. It's going to swallow you up. So you better adapt to it, figure out how to get over this.
Better build that boat.
That's it, right? You got to figure it out. So tell the people kind of what you're working on in the fintech side of things.
Sure. So one of our first engagements, our first clients when we started Finlit Tech last year was eMoney. So for those of you who may be financial advisors, or those of you who may have had a financial plan, eMoney is one of the top fintech providers for financial planning for financial advisors. The problem that eMoney was seeing with their current model was they were working with the 1%. Most financial advisors are working with people that have substantial amounts of assets, because the way the model works is that's how you want to keep your lights on. You charge a fee for planning, charge a fee for asset management, blah, 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 blah. They realize that, geez, there's 99% of people out there that aren't getting any advice, that need the advice. And so we partnered together to help them develop an app that's called Incentive. And what this app is it's financial planning 101, financial planning light, right? And it allows the user, target demographic, early 20s, coming out of college, to have access to some sort of financial planning guidance. How much life insurance do we need? Be able to aggregate and look at my spending. Where's my money going? The budgeting, those types of concepts. So that's what I mean by technology meeting people where they are. And that's one of the big factors that's been, I think, missing in financial literacy platforms. Is a lot of the stuff is, people start talking about investing. Oh, okay, what's your stock portfolio look like? Blah, blah, blah. If you have folks that haven't even put together an emergency fund yet, how are you even thinking about starting to talk about investing? Huge. There are folks that are saddled with debt to try to work that stuff out. And so I think technology allows us to really meet people where they are, get comfortable with the terms, and then build these relationships over time.
That's huge. It's huge, Mac. It's very much so, right? And this is why we connected. It's very much so the way I think about things. Just like you said, as the traditional industry really only helps the top 5%, right? That's about it. Who's helping the 95? That's where we have to come in, right? We have to come in, and I often say there's the 101, 202, 303 level of money. And a lot of the information that we get is at the 202, 303 level. But we got to start at this 101. Right? If we're not even getting the basic information on how to create an emergency fund, or get ourselves out of high interest debt, or make sure we have the proper life insurance protection, if we're not even getting that information, people want to go off. How can you go off and do anything different? You want to start investing in real estate and looking at equities and cryptocurrency and all this stuff, and you don't even have proper cash flow, right? Like you
Yep.
don't even make enough.
Cash flow is king, man.
You know what I mean?
My corporate commercial lending days, cash flow is king, brother. If you can't get your cash flow right,
you can't do anything.
And so I'll also tie this into, so one of the responses that we would get from folks who bought our book, and when I tell you, gentlemen, that when I wrote this book years ago, I did not expect that we would have book sales in Germany, France, England, Canada. Like, you know what it shows is that financial literacy isn't just a US thing, it's a global concern. And so we wrote the book as a resource. Folks kept coming and saying, hey, Mac, can you write a book to teach kids about how to earn money? if you could do that, that'd be great. And so that's why when we were putting together this For Money Bears Berryville app, we view it as the on-ramp to a child's digital financial education journey. They got to start somewhere, right? And so why not develop a game, again, meeting the user where they are, that allows a child to own and run a berry farm. That's how they learn how the money is earned. And then once the money comes in, give them quizzes and questions, different ways to learn about managing the money. We got some behavioral finance aspects in here too, because we have a sneaking suspicion that once kids start playing this game, they're going to probably overspend and buy clothes for their beer and do all that stuff. And then we're going to have to find ways to sort of nudge them to say, hey, instead of spending that $100 on that, why not buy a blender for your business or an oven or something that will allow your business, which is an investment, to thrive and grow, and then take care of other beers in the community by giving, so on and so forth. So technology is what's going to allow us to do that, man.
That's huge.
I love that, man. The Berryville game, man, that excites me so much. For my own kids, and then also for my students that we work with. And like you said, you got to meet them where they're at and give them that foundation. And I think that's what your book and the game is going to do for those kids, because in education, so often, we just have the books. For example, we read and we try to teach from the book and give them whatever information we can from there. But there's not always a lot of application to the knowledge. And so then your book, along with the game, they get to learn, get the foundation, and then they actually get to apply that by playing that game. And that's powerful for those kids. That's going to take their knowledge to another level, because guess what? They get to mess up in the game and make some mistakes and see what happens when you make that mistake. Yeah.
I didn't save enough berries.
Exactly.
It's a drought. And we're going to put all these cool factors in the game too. It's a pretty neat experience developing this and work with developers to kind of think about different scenarios to put in the game. But you're right. It's not always going to be sunny days. And how are you planning your finances? And that's the other cool thing too is as a CFP, a lot of my clients over the years have been business owners. I try to tell people that when you're a business owner, you in essence have two lives. You have two financial lives. Right. You have the life of your business, and then you have the life of your personal family. And so it's opportunities to teach and expose young people. You may not be in an area or neighborhood where you can run outside and put a lemonade stand out, you know what I'm saying, or for whatever. But we view our platform as that sort of digital lemonade stand for young people to get their first experience managing money and making money.
Huge. I'm fired up, just like Derrick's fired up about the game. I think the gaming is a real way to break in. It kind of ties into something Derrick and I have been talking about the Web3 side, about the Metaverse and what's coming on that side.
Should I? Okay.
Let's go. Give it, Mac. We're here.
All right. So we have created a Bear Bucks Ethereum token. Okay. It's been created. It has not been launched.
I like that.
And for those of you who are listening, that whole world is an amazing opportunity to do some really, really cool things. DeFi, blockchain, all that kind of stuff. But there's a platform called Axie Infinity, and some folks may have heard of it. But it's actually allowed folks in Asia to earn a livable wage by playing a game.
I read articles about that.
So that's why it excites me, right? Because this integrates when we step into this Web3 world. It's going to integrate the learning and the ability to actually physically have money, right?
And grow wealth.
Yeah.
Imagine the space is called play to earn. That's the sort of phraseology they're using in that space. But we are looking at ways down the road to be able to incorporate this virtual solution platform into the game, where a child can actually develop wealth that way. So there's tons of opportunities. I like to say we are living in an amazing time. We can have a child read that book, play that game, and say, hey, can we buy $5 worth of Nike stock or Under Armour or whatever? 5, 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Yep.
Now the technology is around to allow for fractional shares and fractional ownership. One of the companies that we work with is Greenlight. Greenlight does some really, really cool things. It's an app, it's a card. 2 of my 3 kids have it. Johnson Cook is the president, and we're both of the same mindset that technology is what's going to be able to really change a lot of lives. And they allow for investing. And they allow for a child to have that conversation with mom and dad. Like, can we buy $5 worth of this, or $6 worth, $10 worth of that? Drivewealth is a company that actually is allowing for these types of solutions to have. So the whole fintech space to come together with the financial literacy space and put these platforms together is phenomenal.
Let me say this real quick. I like your idea better of them being able to play the game and earn some money versus when my kids play Minecraft or something, I have to give them money to buy Minecraft tokens and get nothing in return. Yeah.
Listen,
we get nothing in return from that.
I'm so glad you even said that, because as you're talking, my marketing brain's going off, and I'm like, Mac, if you incorporated this game with mainstream games, so you can save money in Berryville and then use it for Minecraft.
Yes.
If you can create the savings, like, hey, this is where you're earning your money in this game. Save it, invest it on this side, and you can use it in all of these other real world applications in Minecraft, Roblox, in the metaverse when you want to go buy Nike or whatever. That's why I said the gaming world is so right next to this financial movement that I'm excited about it, man. We got to talk off.
The metaverse is going to create a whole new economy, right?
It already has.
Yeah, it already has. Yeah. And so many people aren't even aware of that, and they're going to miss out on that opportunity to be able to invest and learn and keep up with what's going on with that. It's super important.
Yeah, my buddy, I don't know if y'all know Tyrone Ross Jr.
Yeah,
Tyrone does some awesome stuff, and he was a speaker at the E-Money meeting as well. And we've chopped it up and talked about how this space can lead to so much impactful wealth accumulation and wealth generation for communities that have been overlooked and underserved for years. It's just getting them access to it and getting it to a point where folks feel comfortable and folks are aware, and not just community and social, but government and regulations and all that fun stuff. But I am in total agreement with the 2 of you gentlemen that the gaming aspect is important. I think when you're dealing with a financial literacy resource and your target demographic is elementary school, or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, you got to meet them where they are. They have to have fun doing it. Otherwise, it's just going to be like every other financial literacy book that they got. One last thing I want to mention too, that is making our platform very unique and different, and which is allowing us to talk to financial institutions as well as fintech companies. We've developed a new methodology of teaching financial literacy. We call it a TAT method. We're going to teach financial literacy. They're going to do it through gamified solutions, answer questions, blah, blah, blah. We're going to analyze how that person is doing. We're going to have leaderboards. But I think one of the things that's going to be very powerful, we envision for a long time, is that last year, which is to be able to track progress over time. Mm-hmm. That has been a big issue for a lot of institutions, a lot of companies. We are working with a regional bank here in Tampa. For those of you out there that are listening, there's something called the CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, that banks have, that wherein they give back to the community and do different things in their communities, enrich their communities. And this bank, they're looking to utilize our platform, the Full Money Grace Berryville, to give to children in the community to be able to teach, analyze, and track the progress in these unlooked, overserved communities, to be able to say empirically or have some sort of causation. Hey, look, because this child started playing this game or this in these areas, this is the result that we're seeing. Better opportunities for loans because they're that much more knowledgeable. Higher savings rates, all these different things that we believe that if we can gather the data and show over time what introducing these concepts at an early age can do, we think can just be literally world changing.
Absolutely, it could be. And what's funny is that you have the bank's support, or you're starting to get the bank support. But what's funny is if you keep going down this path, it's going to force the banks to change some of their behaviors, some of their right? Because once you educate us on money, on interest, on loans, once you educate, we're going to start to get smart and be like, that 1% CD doesn't make as much sense for me, right? And now the banks are going to, if they do implement it, they're going to be like, well, we have to offer more now to get people to continue to come. So I think, again, this can be revolutionary. This can change how we're thinking about money altogether, and it affect the institutions that have controlled money and controlled the way that money has flowed for a very long time, and put it back into the hands of the people, which is really what we're seeing happen. So good stuff.
So Mac, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask our guests, for our parents, what's the number one piece of financial advice you want to share with our audience for the parents? What's the one thing that you think they need to know to help them move forward in life when it comes to their finances?
I lean on that one saying, you can't eat tomorrow what you didn't plant yesterday. You cannot eat tomorrow what you did not plant yesterday. And this applies to children. This applies to adults. I can't tell you how many times as a financial planner, I sit down with people and the refrain is consistent. I wish I started investing earlier. I wish I started doing something earlier. I wish. And so, start having these conversations with your children early. There are resources out there. You can look up their great books. They're great apps that are being developed on a regular basis. Just start the conversation, because you can't make that time up. I like to ask folks, typically from an investment perspective, folks start playing in that pond. They graduate from college, and then they may have a job that has a 401k, and then they, if they don't have any sort of experience from a family member or someone like that, that's typically when you start really delving in the investment pond. That's in your mid-20s, early mid-20s. Imagine if that process started when your kid's 7, and you start buying equities, start exposing your mind, your children's minds to that. This is how generational wealth is perpetuated. Quick funny story. Working in the trust department, DC, and we're doing a trust accounting. Trust accountings are terrible. They're the worst thing known to man. I pray to never have to do trust accountings ever again. But I'm doing a trust accounting on this client of ours, and she had DuPont stock. She was in her 80s. She had DuPont stock with a cost basis of $1.50.
Oh my.
Do you know how long you had to have owned DuPont stock to have a cost basis of $1.50?
Wow.
60 years, 70 years.
She didn't buy that.
Yeah.
Her family generations prior purchased that. And it grew, and they put it in trust. And so I ask people, what's the name of your great, great, great grandfather or grandmother's names? Most people have no clue.
No clue.
The DuPonts do. The Rockefellers do. The Carnegies do. Because there's a trust check coming from that person or people over time. And so that's the thing that I would really echo to parents with young kids is start the conversation about money as early as possible. We've got a cool book, but again, there's tons of resources out there, and understand the power of investing, and that you can't eat tomorrow what you didn't plan yesterday. You can't expect to have this multi-million-dollar portfolio hanging around if you didn't start investing at an early point in time.
Man, powerful.
That is
really good Mac nuggets there.
Those are some Mac nuggets. Those are some Mac nuggets. Mac, we appreciate you. We appreciate the work that you're doing. Man, thank you for jumping on the show, dropping your Mac nuggets here with us. For everybody that's listening, again, our mission is to give you the resources you need for this financial education journey, for this financial literacy journey, right? Whether you have children, look, Mac's throwing up his books. He's got right.
You can buy them on Amazon, but you can buy everything on Amazon nowadays.
Yep.
That's right. Everything's on Amazon, but that's what we come to do, is give you those resources so that you can, again, get the information that you need or that your children need to become successful in this game of money. So, Mac, again, appreciate you. Everybody, I guess, can find you here on LinkedIn, but where else can they find you?
So you can go to www.the4moneybears, TheFourMoneyBears. I do spell it out because some people actually put the number 4 in there. And so we actually have a Kickstarter campaign that's going on right now. It ends in about 2 days to raise funds and awareness of our Teach Kids Money mission. You can also find out about us at finlittech.com. Or the other book is Motivate Your Money. So, those are the 3 areas to find out our resources. And I like to say that the financial life journey is a long one. So, prepare as well as you can, find the resources that are out there, and the journey continues.
Journey continues. Good stuff, man. Thank you for joining us. And man, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next.
That's right. That's right. We are. And for everybody, we're wrapping up this month of April. Our last show, potentially, right? Derek and I haven't talked yet. Potentially, we might keep it going.
Give us some feedback. Let us know. You want more? You gotta let us know.
Y'all gotta let us know in the comments. Drop it in, share it. Let us know. Hey, we want to keep this thing rolling. But as for now, we're gonna come back on Thursday with our potentially last episode of this Finance First series here on LinkedIn. Share it with someone. Invite somebody to jump on and hear it. But we're doing this to make sure, again, you guys get the information you need. So until next time, we're signing off. Everybody enjoy your day. Take care.